This is your favorite time of year. You're a college hoops junkie.
I tell people happy holidays. I think I'm weird. I'm saying I'm more excited right now than I am after Black Friday.
Do you ever get annoyed that your world gets infringed upon the entire nation for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and everybody acts like they know what they're talking about?
No, not at all. I look at this as one great big party, and there's no cover charge.
Let's go ahead and look at it.
Yeah, you know me. I'm a social guy. I said hi to you at Bar Coastal once when we bumped in randomly. We had a nice 18-minute conversation.
You actually bought me a beer.
I bought you a beer. Everything like, hey, dude, I got to get to my table. But it was good. It was good to see you out and about, out in the wild.
It was good to have you. Good to hang out with you as well. Yesterday, no really huge upsets unless you consider Murray State and John Morant's upset over Marquette, a big one. It was a 5-12, but did you feel like it was a big upset?
No, just because of the way and the manner that it happened and, the dominant performance by John Morant, first triple-double in the field since 2012. Since Draymond Green did at Michigan State was sensational, but you never really felt like Marquette was in the game in the second half. So because of the manner in which that happened and John Morant looking like a young Russell Westbrook with the way that he was playing in terms of filling the box score and showing athleticism, I didn't think it was an upset. I'm not just saying this because I picked the game. To win in the NCAA tournament and pull an upset, you need your best players to play well. And I felt because of everything that's happening at LSU, Yale was a good team to roll the dice on.
I did too.
They lose by 5. Aoni, who's a legitimate NBA draft prospect, goes 2 of 16. One of the field goals is a dunk with nobody on him, and they shoot 8 of 37 from 3, and they lose by 5. If he was just average and not bad, Yale wins the game going away. I thought James Jones did an excellent job rallying his team, but you lose by 5, and your potential draft pick goes 2 of 16, and you go 8 of 37 from 3.
Yeah, that was the 3-14 matchup, and it looked pretty tasty to go with Yale there. And as you said, if the Bulldogs had hit 3 or 4 3-pointers,
they win the game.
They win the game maybe by 5 or 6 points. Their 3-point shooting was so awful yesterday.
Well, Damon, think about this. Like, for all intents and purposes, they're 8 of 37 from 3. So if they just go 12 of 37 from 3, they probably win by 10.
Yeah. So there weren't really huge upsets yesterday, but the craziest game had to be New Mexico State against Auburn.
Yeah.
And the fact that New Mexico State has a chance to tie with a layup breaking into the basket, nobody on him, and he kicks it out for a 3-pointer. Auburn then fouls the 3-point shooter, giving him 3 free throws. He misses 2 of the 3. How many ways can you bungle the end of a game between Auburn and New Mexico State?
No, and that's what makes the NCAA tournament the greatest show in sports. My heart breaks for the kid and the young man who missed the free throws because you're never going to forget that. But survive and advance is the mantra in March, and Auburn gets to live another day. And I think the interesting dynamic in that region, the region of Pace, which is the Midwest region, I name all the regions.
Love it.
Is this. Kansas is completely off the radar right now in the NCAA tournament. They didn't win the Big 12, but if Bill Self wins one more game, he's playing the Sweet 16 game in Kansas City.
Kansas City, it's a home game.
And potentially, if the seeds hold up, it will be against Roy Williams. How's that for a storyline?
How about that?
I see that CBS next Friday night at 9:40.
I'm telling you, everybody wanted to bury Kansas. They just had to win 2 games to get to Kansas City, and then suddenly they have a whole different season. Kind of the same thing with Iowa State, right? I mean, Hilton Magic, those Iowa State fans, they can travel. That's only 3 hours away from Ames, Iowa. If Iowa State gets to the second weekend, that could be a huge party for the Cyclones as well.
It could be a massive party for the Cyclones, absolutely. Kansas City would be red and yellow. A lot of Hulk Hogan fans.
John Rothstein joins us here on the show. Zion Williamson is the most interesting player in the tournament since when for you?
The most interesting player in my lifetime.
Really?
Yeah, beyond Carmelo Anthony, beyond Anthony Davis, beyond anybody I've ever seen in college basketball. I don't think we've ever seen a player in the sport that makes everything else that's going on obsolete. When you think about the NCAA tournament, you think about obviously having 4 screens up at once on the first couple of days. Everything is going to be shifted on Zion, even if they're playing North Dakota State. And the interesting thing about this Duke team is there is not the dominant veteran presence that there was last year with Grayson Allen, or there was in 2015 when they had Quinn Cook, Emile Jefferson, and Matt Jones. This is really a freshman class that is undertaking more responsibility than any other freshman class that's played for Mike Krzyzewski has had.
Did we underplay Villanova? I don't know about you, but the fact that Villanova could win the Big East regular season, win the Big East championship, be defending national champions, and still get a 6 seed?
It's a product more of Villanova maximizing the conference being balanced across the board and not being as strong as it is at the top. You saw that yesterday. The Big East was 1-3 so far in this tournament. St. John's lost the other night. But Villanova right now, one team left in the field from the Big East. And obviously, we're about 90 minutes away from just starting Friday. You can't tell I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, Seton Hall is one of those teams. They got beat by Wofford. And Wofford now, they have to be considered kind of dangerous. They go up against Kentucky. Kentucky's a different level.
It's a different level, but this is the ultimate David versus Goliath matchup. Now, people can say, well, Wofford isn't, David. They've won all these games in a row. When you're a team from the SoCon, and you're in a situation where you have a chance to play Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, and the styles are so different. One team is big and physical and has all this NBA pedigree potentially at the next level, and then there's Wofford, who is just really mid-major players who are exceptionally well coached and is an outstanding shooting team. You have what epitomizes the NCAA tournament. I'm looking forward to that game Saturday.
John Rothstein joins us in studio. How did you react to Tom Izzo getting in the face so aggressively of one of his freshman players?
This is one thing, I want to talk about, and I think it's something that's important. Like, he's constructively criticizing his player. Does he coach hard? Does he coach right now that probably isn't going to be advantageous with social media and instant opinions? Yes, but I'm sure at one point in your career to get to the level that you're at today, you had to face criticism. And you had to be molded so that you were a better talk show host and a better broadcaster. That's all he's doing. And I think our society right now, because of the day and age that we're in 2019, is just afraid of confrontation. And I think that is really what it is in a nutshell. I know personally, and I'm getting feedback every year from my bosses on all forums, that all he's trying to do is make Aaron Henry a better basketball player. And if he coaches hard and maybe in a way that's a little bit more synonymous with the 70s, 80s, or 90s, well, then I just think it's more of a reflection and a snapshot of where we're at as a society in 2019.
I think it's a really interesting angle on this because you're right. I think we are a society totally terrified of confrontation because everybody does stuff on social media. But I do wonder this. People that compared this to if you did this at the office, it's not the office. It's basketball.
Right.
So that's a silly comparison.
He's coaching his team. And the problem, and here's another thing too. We talk obviously about the college player today versus the college player maybe 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Because now things are so pronounced on social media and a kid and a player has the right and the access to have their own Twitter page, to have their own Instagram page, they can pretty much come out and say, I'm a transfer, I'm a free agent, and make themselves, not to be LeBron James, but to try to forecast that type of situation. It's a much different dynamic right now for the college athlete to deal with than it was before all of this came to the forefront.
Totally right. So this is my question. Not whether Tom Izzo was right or wrong, but whether that's a dangerous game to play for Tom Izzo, coaching like it's the 90s when it's not the 90s.
Look, I've spent a lot of time around Tom Izzo in the last 10 to 15 years. I've spent time with him in East Lansing. He is not changing who he is. And he is going to be really comfortable with Michigan State's program, whether somebody wants to be a part of it or doesn't want to be a part of it. Because right now, here are the facts. Michigan State doesn't have its secondary scorer in Josh Langford. Michigan State doesn't have its backup to its secondary scorer in Kyle Arns. And Michigan State is one of 32 teams playing, and they're the Big Ten regular season and tournament champions. He knows what he's doing.
Let's assume Virginia wins today. They're not going to be a 116 seed upset 2 years in a row. But what happens if Virginia loses in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16?
You got to answer for it. I mean, it's the only way for Virginia to truly exercise the demon is to be playing in Minneapolis. And you look at their region, the region of grind.
That's right.
Because of Purdue and Cincinnati and Tennessee and Wisconsin, Oregon. It's tailor-made right now for Virginia to get to Minneapolis. I really think that, when you look at the dynamics for the 1 seeds, I felt that Gonzaga had the hardest road, but Syracuse not having Frank Howard and not having to see the 2-3 zone, I think makes it a little bit easier. Baylor played a great basketball game last night, but Virginia, unless it gets to Minneapolis, is going to feel like it left, obviously, some cake on the table.
You didn't think that UNC had the toughest road in the region of pace because their 2 is Kentucky, their 3 is Houston, their 4 is Kansas, potentially in Kansas City?
Well, here's one thing I think that we need to take in consideration. They can't play Houston and Kentucky. They can only play one of them.
Right.
So if you say, all right, North Carolina's in a situation where they're going to play Utah State or Washington in the round of 32. Washington hasn't beaten an at-large team in the field. The only team in the field they've beaten is Oregon, and that was on a miraculous comeback in Eugene. So if they get past that game, this North Carolina team, even if they're playing in Kansas City against Kansas and Auburn, you would think it's a favorite. And I'm not rooting it for anybody in this tournament, but I picked Auburn, and if North Carolina plays Auburn, the first to 170 might win. But you would think the Tar Heels win the game, but it would be a fun game.
Yep.
And then they've just got to beat, I think it will be an epic regional final, but you got to beat somebody to get to a Final Four. But that's the team that I picked to win a national championship.
Before we let you go, what are the other two regions that you've named?
I have on the left side of the bracket, because we're going right to left today.
That's right.
Because of what we're seeing in the East region with Duke and obviously with N'Keal Alexander-Walker at Virginia Tech and Reggie Perry of Mississippi State and the LSU kids and Bruno Fernando, it's the region of prospects. And then at the bottom, because of Ja Morant, because of Rui Hachimura, because of players like Lugansdort on Arizona State, and obviously what you're seeing at Michigan with Ignas Brazdeikis, it's the region of sizzle. You enjoy this every year.
It's my favorite part of it. It really is. It's my favorite part of it. I just love it. John Rothstein joins us, college basketball insider, CBS Sports, Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
You see him on CBS Sports TV, CBS Sports Network, and he's all over Twitter for all of March Madness, so definitely follow him at John Rothstein. No H, Jon, John Rothstein